Welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion about principal pay with two principals who actually happen to be both former North Carolina Principals of the Year. We have Dr. Carrie Tulbert. Carrie is the principal of Concord Middle School in Cabarrus County, and we have Melody Chalmers. Melody is the principal in my hometown, E.E. Smith High School in Cumberland County. So welcome, both of you. We just talked to Dr. Gainey about, as a superintendent, he's looking for superstar principals like you two, and so I guess I want to get your take on, some of the changes that happened with the principal pay. I guess two of the biggest things that changed was the General Assembly eliminated pay for advanced degrees, and they eliminated pay for based on experience. Well, I'm going to start with you, Dr. Tulbert. Obviously, that would affect you, but I guess overall, do you think that advanced degrees and years of experience matter in terms of should matter in terms of compensation?
Absolutely. It is an investment in yourself as an educator and trying to be a lifelong learner and lead by example with your staff. And it has made me a better educator, no doubt, investing in my own education. And so it's kind of a slap in the face that I'm no longer paid for that, and kind of confusing that assistant principals are still paid for advanced degrees, but principals are not paid for advanced degrees, yet the responsibility of a principal is far heavier than an assistant principal. And the same thing with years of experience. I know a lot more than I did now as 8 years in versus my first year as a principal. Experience matters, and all the research shows that, is that the longer you do it, just the more you learn. It's just very powerful how experience makes you a better educator.
Right, no, it is a bit confusing to me as well. I mean, I'd like to think that, as a manager and as an employee, I'm better than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Experience matters a lot, right?
It absolutely does. I'm privileged to be the principal at E.E. Smith High School in Cumberland County, and we face some challenges that other schools don't face. And as a principal coming in, being there now 7 years, I've learned so much about what it takes to build culture, build relationships, and be an effective leader. And so it's very beneficial, I believe, to pay principals for that experience that they've gained through working in a school and demonstrating success.
Right. Now, Dr. Tulbert, one of the things that has been a focus, and I think, a stated goal by the legislature, we want to have our best principals, our most effective, our high flyers, going to schools that are low performing. Right. To help turn around schools. Mm-hmm. Concord Middle School is a school that you joined when?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, and it was a school that it was having some challenges academically. So the whole idea of a hold harmless for a year or a couple of years, how long does it take to turn around a school? Do we know?
Melody and I both talked about that. I think one of the biggest issues in low-performing schools is turnaround with administration and teachers. Constant turnover is very challenging for a school. I would never want to work for 4 different bosses in 5 years, and that's essentially what happened with our staff at Concord Middle School. And so to recruit principals that have a record of success is very important to low-performing schools, but then you also have the legislation around low-performing schools that doesn't really attract principals to low-performing schools because there is a timeline.
You're talking about the A to F school grading system?
Yes. And there's also the timeline that is attached to a principal that you are supposed to show certain gains in academic achievement within a small time. 2 years is what the legislation states, and that so you have 2 years apparently to show growth at your school as a low-performing school, or there are certain actions or consequences that can happen to that principal. So how are you going to recruit a great principal to a school and then also have this other legislation around low-performing schools? And also, it takes 3 to 5 years to really impact a school. Mm-hmm. And principals don't stick around that long anymore for many reasons, but one of them is the pay is not really matching what the needs and demands of the job are, especially in a low-performing school. So you've got to have that consistency and high expectations for a long time.
Now, Melody, when I talk to principals, when I talk to teachers, they all tell me we're not afraid of being judged based on performance. But they're sometimes skeptical or again don't like the model. So we've already talked about the idea of advanced degrees. Obviously you would agree with that, I think, and also that experience matters. But what do you think as a principal? What do you think a good principal should be judged on?
Well, I absolutely believe the focus is on academic results for students. That is the bottom line for us at our school and in our county. But I think that the community needs to understand that there's a lot more that goes into a school other than, or to assess a school other than a test score. And what I can say is at E. Smith High School, we have met or exceeded growth during the 7 years that I've been there. That took a lot of partnerships with parents, with our community, with building relationships, strong PLCs. So there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. And so I would like to see the principal pay plan focus on increasing the base pay for all of that work that goes in. And then we should still have incentives for meeting growth and exceeding growth, because I absolutely believe that that is important. But I think more focus needs to be put back into increasing base pay.
So to get increase the base pay, which of course would get to the idea of this average pay being so low, but then it sounds like to me you're talking about that incentives really it would be something that would be appealing to you, because I mean you're like, I don't think you're obviously your focus is on your students, but man, people like the idea of people want to be rewarded for their performance. They do a good job.
And I happen to be principal at a school I graduated from, so I tell people all the time, I want the school to be the best. Always, I want the best for my students. But we have to understand that there are challenges with the teacher shortage. Students come with mental health issues and other concerns that can make it challenging sometimes. So we just say increase the base pay and still provide incentives for principals for meeting and exceeding growth.
Is the job getting harder?
Oh my goodness, yes, every day. And I think, again, the base pay, what Melody was talking about, is so important. When 44% of the principals in the state of North Carolina are paid on teacher salary because the principal base pay is not enough, that's heartbreaking.
How many? What's the
44%
of principals are paid on
in
the
state of
teacher
North
pay
Carolina.
because it's so low as a principal. Yeah,
which
there's
is
something wrong.
Terrible. And so how are you going to recruit even assistant principals to go into the principalship? Now, I have outstanding assistant principals at Concord Middle School, but they have no desire right now to go into the principalship because why? It's more responsibility, but the pay barely increases for them. And they too are also getting paid on the teacher salary. So there's just, why would you do it when you have no difference in pay?
Right, and we've also seen, you mentioned the assistant pay, the assistant principal pay schedule. We have principals that are also that are being paid on the AP schedule because of the advanced degrees and other things.
Yes, and that's great that school systems are allowing some of those freedoms, but again, what does that really say to what you want to recruit the best?
Well, yeah,
of the best?
and that's not exactly, then you're not really, it's not really a system anymore. You're not really a pay, you're just kind of moving it around to try to make it fit. So what about, as far as the sort of how things have changed? One thing that when we talk to teachers is the children are coming in with so many more issues and challenges.
Absolutely, and I think that when you pay a principal just based off of an outcome, it doesn't take into effect all of the inputs and all of the work that goes into making sure a school is successful. As I stated, at E. Smith High School, we've exceeded or met growth each year, and each year that we are working harder and harder. The task has just gotten a lot more daunting because of the societal issues that many of our students bring into our school buildings. But we're committed as leaders to be successful, and we're thankful, as Dr. Gainey said, that the legislature is putting consideration into this.
And just a very last word quickly, and you mentioned that once you get to a certain point of achieving growth, in the current thing, really at that point it's just a risk of going down.
Right. And that truly is our concern.
Right. Well, look, thank you both for what you do for our schools and for our students, and thanks for being here on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
After the break, this week's final word.